right, good morning, Bardstown and Nelson County, and welcome to another edition of Bradford and Brooks. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning here in downtown Bardstown, and lots of people out and about walking on the sidewalks out here on South 3rd Street. Town is busy, and we have a very special guest with us today, Margie. Judge-Executive Tim Hutchins is with us in the studio this morning. And Tim, it's good to have you back.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, Tim, as I asked you when you first came in, as I was coming around the courthouse, I saw, it looked like several hundred signs around in the grass around the courthouse, and I was driving and I couldn't read what was on the signs. But tell our listeners, if you're coming down around the courthouse, be sure and check these out. There's a bunch of signs, and I asked you, I thought, well, what are the signs about? Mm-hmm. And it really was an eye opener when you find out what they represent.
Well, you was asking me if it was about life, and it is about life. Regardless of what side of the fence you're on when it comes to that, but it's the drug epidemic and overdoses, and all those signs are, they've got pictures and names of people that have passed away with either drug overdoses or fentanyl poisoning, mm-hmm. Something related to that. And so Angela, what did I tell you her name
Parkerson.
was? Angela Parkerson. I've got to know her pretty well through the Narcan discussion and so on. And her and I met and talked quite a bit, and she wanted to put some signs up and let people be aware. And that's like it's a big deal with me about letting people be aware of how dangerous this is and how big it's become. And so anyway, she wanted to put a few signs up, and I guess they have done this, maybe at some businesses over the different counties, and I said, well, just put them up, leave them. Oh, we usually don't leave them up. And I said, well, I don't care if you leave them up for, a few weeks. So I said, we won't put them up. So Saturday, some point, they put a bunch up. And I bet there's 200 or 300 up there. And
are these people from Nelson County?
So, not all from Nelson County, but a lot of them are. And I didn't look at every name on there, of course, but there's several
relatives
counties.
of people.
Yeah, but there are a lot of them are from Nelson County, yes.
Yeah.
And
it gives you an idea of the scale.
It does open your eyes up how bad and big it is, and hopefully we can, anybody that needs help, they can even call my number and I can get them help. I can, I want to get anybody that needs help and trying to reach out, we got to help them. I don't want the repeated offenses, and then of course the fentanyl poisoning is another subject. So that's where Angela's big into that side of it, and we're just trying to get. We're going to meet some more, and we got all kinds of different programs coming up. We're going to try to get into schools more, and we've hired we started a special operations, division in the sheriff's office, Raymond, and the fiscal courts went together and hired another police officer as far as what I call special investigations. That salary is getting paid out of the opioid fund, so it's no cost to the local taxpayers again.
That's what I was going to ask you, if we were going to get any of that money.
Yeah, well, we've got some money. We're going to try to allocate how we're going to spend it, but that's one big piece of it that I was pushing for, and hopefully we can get maybe another one. And then there's other programs you'll see as coming up. We've got many coming down the pipeline.
All right, well, Tim, I'll tell you.
Go ahead. When you come around the courthouse, you look at the signs, but keep your eye on the road and don't drive too fast.
Right. Yeah, slow down if you're coming around the courthouse. Well, Tim, I know that having attended fiscal court meetings for a number of years, your meetings have a lot going on. There's a lot of moving pieces in county government, and it's telling how much information comes out and all the discussions you have with department heads and other individuals during fiscal court. And you said you've got you're going to have you've been doing monthly updates about what's happening in county government, and you said you'll have one coming out soon?
Yeah, I've been sending you one that people can go to the Gazette, and I'm putting them in the Kentucky Standard try to once a month, and gives you an overview of what my goals and views and fiscal courts, what we've done, what we're going to do in the magistrates, and it's a pretty big, just keep people involved in what's going on. And I've had a lot of positive responses since I started this, and And, I want people to know what we're doing, what we're trying to do, and there's a lot of miscommunication sometimes in some things, so, and I've had some people reach out to me, ask questions that was, basically just the opposite, trying to understand and learn what's going on, and, for example, we're going to take over the Nelson County Dispatch organization. It'll come under the fiscal court's umbrella, and I've been working with them and EMA, and for the last, actually, since January, or even before January, to be quite honest. And they had some funding issues, and definitely personnel. They've been way underpaid, and I think we've got that fixed, and fiscal court's coming on board, and the city's still going to help pay a portion of it for 3 more years until we achieve what we want to do. We'll get these salaries up, because I think they were 3 or 4 down still there. And like I told them before, if you don't have a good dispatch center, and not saying we don't have a good one, but we got to keep it and keep it growing and keeping it positive and implement new policies and equipment. Equipment is crazy high. And then that way, because if you don't have that, the police, fire, and all the rest of it, might as well say ambulances, they can't respond. So that's going to go under the fiscal court July 1st, and then they'll have a direct check to ambulances and all that. So I think that's a good move. And
right. Well, and then the dispatch director will answer to county government and not 7 different bosses or whoever's on.
Yeah, that's correct. He's going back to the fiscal court meetings, and one of my goals is to be transparent. I said that during the campaign, and I've done it. We've had some long meetings. They have scaled back somewhat, and there's a lot of departments on the fiscal court, and I want to make sure everybody knows what's going on. Most of the general public doesn't know that or hasn't known that in the past. The budgets we have to approve, a lot of pass-throughs, and some of the day-to-day operations. So, I want basically all of them, every division, let us know what's going on. The magistrates, we have magistrate discussions at every meeting, and county attorney, every department, and so on. So I just want to get more and more and more and more information out to the public and let them bring us more and more information back to us with their concerns or anything we can change, make better, and get rid of, and so on. So it's been a positive, good so far. I've had some potholes. I've hit a bunch of potholes that my predecessor left me, but I'm filling them as I go. I'm not leaving any behind. I'm filling them in.
I'll tell you, Tim, one thing that has really impressed me. I know that even before you were elected, you talked about how the county there were missed opportunities for grant money for the county.
Yes.
And you and the county government have gone after those in a big way, and scoring some successes with getting that grant money. Yeah,
we've got most of them fairly small, and but it all adds up. We probably submitted over, I guess to date, maybe over $2 million worth of grants. And I brought on, like I say, a grant writer, and he's an assistant under me that does a lot of other things also.
Right.
And there's he's definitely not leaving any dust under his feet, because we got him moving and helping every division, plus doing the grants, and had a governor Zoom this morning, for example. And I think we're going to see a lot of, and again, that's another thing that didn't happen in the past. And to give you an example, they spent about $1 million on the courthouse, still leaking. I think there was about 1,000 honeybees in there the last couple of weeks, and you see the walls inside deteriorating and falling apart and so on. Some windows leaking and rotting out. So they could have secured a grant for that, at least 50% of that, and I think we got an opportunity to get 75-80% of this. It's going to take about $1.5 million to do it right. We just got some bids, HVAC system and all that's about $600,000-700,000 right out of it.
Right.
So the grant opportunities are there. It's disappointing that they didn't go after them in the past. Spend a lot of taxpayers' local money on projects they shouldn't have done or could have not done, and there's a lot of other projects we could be doing if we went after them.
Right.
And I'm going after them. I made that commitment in my campaign, and that's what I'm doing. And not only that, we're helping all the other cities. I mean, working with me and Dick Keaton has a very good relationship. We're working hand in hand together on just different projects. New Haven in particular, we applied for some water grants. LaRue County Water took them over, but we're working with them in Brett Guthrie's office and actually Tom Massey's office, and then some sidewalk grants in Fairfield, and so it's just a lot of good things happening, to be honest about it, and countywide.
What would you say is the biggest thing you've had to tackle since you've been in office? The biggest one,
My biggest,
the one biggest.
Well, I don't know if you put them all together, but my first goal was to get the police department, what I call straightened out, and give them the significant raises they need and deserve and been left out of, and we fixed that at the first meeting. I met with Raymond and several times, and Raymond's, he's got his vision, and he's an elected official in the county just like I am, but we worked together and got it done, and he's fulfilled his needs. He's got some employees wanting to come back now, and I think it's worked well. Then we got him another officer in that special division. So I think that was one big thing. And I knew the dispatch had a lot of issues, and once I've got in there, and then the EMS has a lot of, well, hell, it's countywide, every department. I mean, we've tried to hire people. You can't compete with the private sector and the other public counties. So this budget I just presented, the fiscal court's approved first reading of it. We've got over $1 million, about $1.3 million in raises in there throughout every department, including the EMS and including dispatch, the solid waste, road department. We didn't leave anybody out because it takes a lot of money to live nowadays with inflation out of control. With it's 6.5% now, and we just feel like that to compete, and we've made a lot of adjustments. We've made a lot of changes. We eliminated some positions that we didn't think, or I didn't think we needed. I merged some together, and then with what Justin has done at the jail with his cuts, and what Joey has made some changes at the EMS and non-emergency runs, lift assist, and some internal adjustments he's made. And I figured it up the other day, and then with some retirements that we didn't replace. And we got some more coming down the pike, so it's probably $600,000 to $700,000 in savings. Then we started 2 inmate programs through the jail. We got a third one we're getting ready to implement. We probably will start a 4th one, and it's.
Well, can you explain what those are?
It saved about $40,000. I think Justin figured the other day. Okay, just in the inmate program, we had them on just like the storms came through, and I mean, helped tremendously in that, and we'll get reimbursed with FEMA on that on top of it. And then we started a tree program. We started cutting trees down on right-of-ways. These ash trees are dying everywhere. Very dangerous, and falling on roads and possibly take somebody's life. We started cutting trees down, using inmates for helping with the debris. County Road pickup on 49 down there by the bridge. Buck Snelling's one of our guys part-time. We've hired part-time people there. It's zero cost to the taxpayers. I probably told you that before. Some of us come out of the landfill grant tax money they get. Some of us came out of the canteen fund for the supervisors. So the local taxpayers are paying no money for these programs. We picked up 101 50-gallon bags on 49 down there by the bridge.
Wow.
I don't know how many was at Boston Road. I mean, that's just, this county is a mess. It's dirty, nasty, trash, and we're cleaning it up. And we're going to do it without raising any taxes or costing tax, actually saving money. So, and then we're helping New Haven with one. We've already started helping the city of Bardstown with some inmate programs once we train their supervisors. We're going to help with Bloomfield. We've already done Fairfield. So we're helping them all with this program. And Justin and John Greenwell and Brad Spalding and now Brad Metcalf and myself, we worked this program out, and it's worked out beautifully. And there's a few bumps in the road.
Sure.
I sent 10 guys out to I relieved the supervisor over the recreation park Friday. I sent 10 guys out there Monday, and I think 5, 6 yesterday, 5 more today, cleaning that park up and getting it beautified. And then we've got, there's just so many things it's been left undone, but I will not leave any potholes behind my trail. I'm going to fill them in as I go.
Now, speaking of the Dean Watts Park, the county got a grant for I think Brad Metcalf was mentioning a grant for a outdoor classroom and a woodland trail. Yeah.
We haven't. I don't know if we got that completely authorized yet, but yes, there's another little wooded area. It's about an acre or so we're going to acquire down there beside it and tie that part. I mean, the people use that little trail a lot. And we got some another grant actually getting some mulch and stuff like that on them. So that's another. I think it was like maybe $100,000 grant. And then the Veterans Park out there that he started, I met with some of those, and there's and Candy Mastrone and Jimmy sent me on that. There's another grant coming through, and there was actually a $500,000 grant, and that's going to be an 80-20. And the one we submitted already was about, maybe I'm thinking about 100 or 200,000. And
for the Veterans Park.
Yes, and then we're going to help them. There's just big opportunities there. Now they have to do some cost shares, and they've raised private money to help do that.
Right.
So that's we'll have that thing moving. They will. They've done a lot on that, and we'll have that thing moving pretty quick too, I think. So just a lot of good things going on, really. The budget, I want to get that behind me. We got to we sent it to the state already, and they've already sent it back with no dings, and the fiscal court's passed it. We went through. I've had individual meetings with each magistrate, and then we had our working session with them all. And I want to let everybody be open about what we're doing. And I think so far we're going to put about $400,000 in what I call a rainy day fund. Hopefully I'll get that up to 5 next year, and over the next 10 years, we put it in we get $5 to $6 million, and hopefully by the time we get our investments and everything, we can create about a $10 million rainy day fund, and maybe get up to $20 million is my goal, where the next generation can use the interest off that to help pay for some programs. And so that's a big deal too, but we got to make sure we watch our P's and Q's.
Right.
Everything's going through the roof. I tell you, it's high.
You're talking about the EMS changes. Can you kind of outline what those EMS changes are? And if
Well, Joey's made some internal changes there. He'd have to share those with you just internally about some, hours and what have you. But the lift assist, we've got the fire departments out in the county, and then the city of Bardstown is actually, we're still working with them on, and it's not that they won't help us, but when the ambulance gets called out in the county for a lift assist, and if it's a non-emergency,
Right.
they don't get any funds for it.
Right.
So we've got the fire departments helping us do that. And that, I forget how many runs it is, it adds up a lot. And then the non-emergency runs at the hospital.
you mean you're having them go instead of the emergency vehicle?
Instead of the EMS, the fire
Instead of the
departments, yes.
EMS.
And then that actually keeps an ambulance freed up.
Right.
Because there's a disaster or somebody gets in a wreck, you don't want to take them off the street. And then you've got the non-emergency runs at the Flagship Hospital.
Right.
Which means if people that's getting released, the ambulances have been picking them up, taking them home a lot.
Okay, so what's happening now?
They're going to go through first their family and friends, and then go through the.
Oh, you mean that was just done automatically?
Well, they would call, and it was been done pretty much automatically. Now, I want to, like I say, Joey can explain that a little bit more detail, but, I didn't like it at all when I found out about it.
Right.
I made some calls and changes, and I met with Joey about it, and then we met with the hospital supervision, and they've come on board, and I've got Hal Good with Central Kentucky Community Action. I met with him first. Then we had a joint meeting with him, because he has the opportunity with his TAC, I guess, or whatever they call it. He's going to support and help a lot of it, and they can work with him instead of the county hadn't foot the bill in it, and we get zero out of it. So taxpayers was paying, it adds up a lot of money in a year's time.
Right.
Now, if it's a true emergency, they're still there.
Sure.
And so there's just a lot of
so
things.
So you're utilizing other resources for them.
Right.
Because not everybody has a car.
Right. Oh, yeah,
Take them home.
that's correct. But I'm going to bet you, I'm not going to say the numbers wise, but in most cases, there's a lot of family members that can take them home. But the tax is a good resource. I mean, it's very inexpensive because it's subsidized, by the state, but it doesn't come out of our local tax dollars.
Right.
Because see, we're allocating, we're putting about $6 to $7 million in the ambulance service with the local tax dollars subsidizing that.
Yeah.
Because the fees won't take care of it. So it saved, over a year's time, it saved a lot of money. And, at some point Joey can get into the details of every little bit of it. It's just like Justin at the jail, changing the food, the vendors and the medical vendors and so on. There's been a lot of changes done there, and so it's been good. And we've got more to come. The road department, everybody's changed a few things internally, and plus we're off for more services. I can't believe just the garbage is out here countywide. And the nuisance ordinance, you've heard me say it. I mean, I'm putting everybody on notice. We've got a law on the books, and people better get their places cleaned up. And all this junk and trash and filth, and there's a lot of it out there. I'm telling you right now. And we're gonna clean it up.
Well, that may not make you a very popular person with, because it hasn't really been enforced.
Yep.
Strictly enforced for.
Are you talking about trash and stuff on people's
private property? Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what they call it.
What's on the public highway?
That's the second piece of it. That's the nuisance ordinance that's been on the books. And
okay.
for years and years and years, and
they
they've
haven't really been improved.
Well, not as much in the last few years. They haven't, and I can take you to some now, and it devaluates the neighbors' properties, and you got rats and snakes and everything else, and more bugs, ticks, and everything else, and it may not be popular to some people, but I'm going to bet you, Jim, most of the people, with a huge number, I think is going to be more popular because.
Well, what's the process that you have to go through to get something like that done?
Well, you got to basically call up to the code enforcement, and they'll send it to me, and then I'll write a work order up.
So someone in the neighborhood can make a complaint.
You can, but I will not put any names. I've changed that. Matter of fact, I just changed that just the last few weeks. I found out about that. It would be no names given and no names on the work orders from anybody that calls. And you may not be a neighbor. You may just be riding by and noticing it, or you may be looking at a house down the road. I could give you probably 100 right now. And I'm not bashful about it. I'm telling everybody about it, letting them know, clean their places up so they won't be getting a letter, and just make it easier. I mean, it's simple. And I'm working with another group to help pick up some of these old cars, or they may not have the means or the resources to do it. I'm working with a group to do that. Actually, they can get some money that they might not have the resources to hire somebody.
Right.
And I'm working on a program there now to do that. And you might have, let's say, you got 2 or 3 old cars, and you had liens on them, and you got them paid off, and you can't get rid of them, and you don't have the resources to get rid of them, but I can get this guy to come in, pay you so much money, clean them up, he'll make a little bit of money, and it solves problems for all 3 of us. So I'm working on that too. So I'm trying to be as helpful as I can to everybody. That's what I'm trying to do. I just, to me, I don't have much patience for people that don't have respect for their neighbors. That's just, I've said that before, and it's going to be on my top of my agenda when I get some of these other things done.
Well, I agree. I think that it may not be popular with some property owners, but I think enforcing the nuisance ordinance will be very popular with neighbors who have to deal with, an eyesore or possible. I mean, especially if you have kids, and just even uncut yards are just attract vermin, and and of course, as a kid, you always want to go explore that.
You don't want to be taking people's rights away, but when if you're living in a farming rural area, it's a little bit different. We've got more subdivisions and things we had in the last 30 years, and of course, you got subdivision restrictions that take care of most of those.
Right. But there's a lot.
But it's not going to take that long if everybody just jump in and do it. I said it during the bulky item. I said, clean your places up. We're picking this stuff up, and I may even come back and do some more of it that way to help them out. I'm not going to be not want to have a conscience of people that don't have the means to do it. You take an elderly person or somebody that can't do it, and we'll work it out. There's ways to do it. Grant monies. There's grant monies again. There you go. There's stuff out there.
All right. Well, Tim, let's take a commercial break. You're listening to Bradford and Brooks and our special studio guest, Judge-Executive Tim Hutchins. We'll be back after these messages. Please stay tuned.
It's hard to
All
bring
right,
it.
you're back with Bradford and Brooks on this beautiful Wednesday morning, downtown Bardstown. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you this morning with our very special studio guest, Nelson County Judge-Executive Tim Hutchins. And Tim's been filling us in with what's going on. And there's no shortage of things going on in Nelson County government. I was commenting earlier that Tim's meetings are impressive. Of course, he's been pulling in lots of staff and supervisors, and basically, we had 4 new magistrates, and so this was kind of a letting everybody know where
3 new ones.
3
new ones.
Oh, that's right, 3 new ones. But just letting them know where things are, how things stand in county government, and you have a very hands-on approach, and at least you want to get information to your to the fiscal court. And anyway, it's I'm amazed at how many moving parts you have to keep track of.
It is. I hear Justin complaining. He's, oh my gosh, I'm putting all this work in, and I hear different ones in each department. And I said, hate to tell you, but I got all of them under me. But it's been good. That's all right. It's been a lot of hours, some long days and nights, but it's I love challenges, and we'll get them in better shape. We already have got a lot of them in better shape. So
now, Tim, I had a question. You've alluded to at some point in the future some sort of facility to house dispatch and EMS, or is it all? Would it be other emergency services as well?
Well, my plan, and I've shared that with about every department and the magistrates briefly, because it's just a working plan, and I'd like to be where the sheriff and the city police is. Get those to move over where the senior citizen, the vacant building part, we'd have to add on it, and both of them they'd increase, maybe not double, but they'd increase their size a lot.
Sure.
Everything I'm thinking about here is the next 30 to 40 years. And then we get the dispatch expand, get them in the basement, attach the fire department onto that existing building, fill in that gap, get the EMS out there, get the EMA out there, and get all that equipment that's out there, and add on to the Nelson County Fire Department. And then it'd be another 30 to 40-year plan, I think. And then when we do that, then emergency services will be in great shape. And I think we can do all that without borrowing any money and so on. Next piece of that is where the old bingo hall was, build a Nelson County governmental complex, and put the civic center there, put the health department there, extension office, the fiscal court, all of the governmental offices, Jeanette Sidebottom, PVA, planning and zoning, the health department, and
put it all out at the Justice
it would
Center.
be there. It'd be a 3-story building. I've got a preliminary footprint. It's about 50,000 square feet. Try to get the we're working hard. Diane is trying to get these licenses back in Nelson County, driver's license.
Right.
The county attorney would be in there. The coroner would be in there, and I've got it laid out in the vision where everybody'd be there, and there'd be enough room to last the next 30, 40, 50 years. We've got a lot of parking there. There's some land available next to it. Now we would probably have to bond out some of that, but once we did that, there would be a lot of county properties available to sale surrounding the county that we could bring in and probably pay for at least half of that. And I'm working on another grant for that as we speak. We can bond out and go in a little bit and make some payments on, a 10-year deal or something. I don't think the masters. I've discussed this with them briefly and back and forth. But as of so far, most people are in favor of it. Everybody's got questions, a few of them here and there. But it's the biggest thing is everybody's out of room. The buildings need work. Do you want to continue what we're doing? It'd be one-stop shopping. Anybody in this county, you go in one building and I hear it. I've heard it for years. And I hear it. I heard it yesterday. I hear about it every day. I got to go to 4 or 5 places every time I want to do something. So it's going to be making it so much easier on the public, and we got the big parking lot out there and everything. And it's just, it'll be something to do. I hope to challenge. My goal is to have that completed in my first 4-year term. I'd like to. That way, the next guy in there, the next 4 years, if you want to go for it, I have it all set up for you. So there's a lot of moving parts, but it's good. We got a lot of growth, and I just want to make it. When it comes to emergency services, you've got to make sure everything fits good, and you can be. It's a timely thing, saving lives and so on. So I think so far everybody's been on board with everything I'm trying to do and accomplish, because, it's not for me. Like I told people before, I'm 64 years old. I don't have any hills to achieve or climb. I just like to fix things and make it better for the next generation. So that's all I'm after.
Well, I know that, I've heard the same complaints. If you want to get say you want a building permit or just if you want to get much of anything done, you have to visit several different places.
That's just part of the, now, because you just, you can't go out and do everything overnight. And I'm not criticizing anybody for that in the past. It's just something we got to try to fix. And of course, emails will help. But planning, zoning, and be in there also. That's another big one. So
PVA as well, I assume.
PVA, yeah. So it's it'd be. I think everybody so far that I've talked to is once we get to lay out and some of them in bigger buildings.
So would this plan do away with offices that are in the old courthouse?
It would.
So what would the old courthouse be then?
I think we're gonna make it Brooks and Bradford and Brooks show up there maybe.
Okay, we got that.
I thought you might just make a parking lot out of that.
Oh Lord, if I get removed from office, but I don't want to get assassinated. But I've talked to actually the Arts Center, and I've talked to the girls downstairs or the groups downstairs, and I think that's the center of Bardstown.
I definitely think it's certainly a pictorial center.
Everything they've done downstairs, they've got some money. They say they want to do some remodeling, and it needs it. And then I'm going to get the courthouse in good shape before. I wouldn't want to put nobody in it the way it looks right now.
Right.
And I have talked to the arts gallery people who need a rummage in them, and I think they got they got quite a bit of traffic, and I think it's up to them, of course, but I offered it to them in the future. That's something that the fiscal court would probably have to vote on, and it would fit like a glove, I think, with the tourism downstairs and the visitor center and the chamber and the art gallery type thing above it.
So the visitor center would still be there?
Oh, yeah, all that would be there.
Yeah. So.
And then that would free up.
But you'd take out the judicial part.
Yeah, there wouldn't be no governmental offices. It would be at that point, and then I just think it'd be a good fit. So anyway, that's just kind of, but none of that's, but it's nothing. I haven't, it may be new news to some people here listening, but I've talked to this and shared it with the magistrates briefly and everybody, just trying to keep them. And if I have missed anybody, I apologize now, because it's hard to tell everybody everything. But I'm just going to let everybody know I'm being transparent, open vision, and that way we can all sit down, and it may not work. They may want to go another route.
Right.
And I'm open-minded to that. So.
Right.
Anyway.
I know that animal control is always a concern.
Yes.
So what's the latest going on there? I haven't been out there in a long time, and I know the county was taking it over, I guess, or taking over a day operation.
The animal control portion of it, and then you got the Humane Society runs theirs, and animal control runs their side, which is under the fiscal court, and then there has been some issues there. I removed the dog warden, I don't know, a couple, 3 months ago.
Oh, do you have a new one?
I do, Todd Bartley. And he's, I guess, interim, and I'm trying to restructure that. I've met with him. I've got it in the budget, and we're going to take some inmates out there. That's another 7-day operation. The inmates can help clean the facility. Saves a lot of money there, because you got to clean all the time out there. That's another thing that should have been done a long time ago, but we're going to start that program, help them 3 or 4 days a week, saving money instead of hiring a bunch of people. Dogs and especially dogs and cats, it's important to a lot of people. Now, there's got to be some changes. It's cost a lot of money, all the drugs and stuff they use out there. So I've met with them, some individuals 2 or 3 times. I met with a group a couple of weeks ago, and there'll be some more significant changes coming out there also. So that's, I'm trying to save some money, because I'm trying to provide a better service without costing a lot of money.
Let me ask you this. Do the inmates receive a stipend for the work they're doing?
They do. By state law, they get 68 cents a day. And they get to get out, get sunshine, and get exercise. So and we have to provide the supervisor, and the state pays that part of it. So that's it's not really funny, but it helps them and a lot of people out there that's made some mistakes and get them out and get their life straightened out. So,
Well, I can see where getting out and doing anything would be better than just sitting and watching TV.
Yeah. What about Jim? You hadn't talked about the new pause that I put in place. You hadn't even brought that up today. It's surprising.
Well, I guess the 30-day pause, or I don't want to call it a moratorium. But in the any zoning applications for storage facilities for bourbon, there's a 30-day pause in effect right now.
You said on your show, you said kudos to something when you was put a little thing in there. I won't call it an attack, and I come back and you said I was what'd you say? I was not, whatever word you used on your show, which I'm glad you did on your little thing there, but non-apologetic. Because we have got their attention. I don't like the way House Bill 5 went down.
Right.
My predecessor was on here a few weeks ago, and he's told me he was against House Bill 5. He went to Frankfurt, then he was on your show. Mm-hmm. Basically, I say talking in favor of getting rid of it. He said the payroll taxes and all that was more important, which I would disagree with, because $75 per person is all the county gets. It's on the occupational tax on the county side. So I think he was way wrong on that. And talk about the decisions they made in 2015. Well, if he put them in a PUD type atmosphere then, we wouldn't be talking about it.
That's right.
They put them in the rural areas and let them have a free reign. The only entity in Nelson County that does not have to go through planning zoning, which has public hearings and has citizen input.
Right.
Only one. And I would 100% disagree with that. He alluded about going back at the Prohibition days and all that. Well, the fact of the matter is there was no zoning back then.
Right.
There were stores out in the rural areas. There was all kinds of hardware shops and all that in the rural areas, but there wasn't any zoning.
Right.
So that would never happen when zoning started in 1972 or 4. So for them to get a free ride, and I've said it publicly, and I mean it, and the citizens going to have a say in what I do. So we got their attention. They did not include us in any meetings whatsoever when they passed these bills and took the tax away.
Right.
And we're going to have enough growth in this county that we're going to continue to get some taxes, unlike some counties. And but for my predecessor to get on and say some things he said, I think it's way out of tune, first of all, because he didn't know what I was working on, because since then I met with the distilleries, and I opened my hand and reached out across the aisle and brought them in, and they're in an agreement with us to create a new zone.
Right.
Now, going back to the warehouses had to be on an I-2 at the time. Well, there wasn't any I-2s. I knew there had to be some changes made.
Right.
And because if you want the growth in your county, and there's never one statement I've ever made, unlike what some people have alluded to, that I'm against the bourbon industry, or that I want to shut anybody down. There was no language anywhere, any place. If they could show it to me, I want to see it, because I haven't anything. I had some drafts sent to me about some things I've taken out. Some people got a hold of some drafts in that first meeting. It was talking about shutting down industries and all that.
Right.
Never from Tim Hutchins was that presented. And I sent that to all the attorneys and everybody to review. So, and I told the distilleries, I met with several of them, the mayor and I, and the magistrates, some magistrates and council members. We worked out an agreement. They came on board, and I appreciate what they've done in this community. But, again, my predecessor, you talking about all this show he's talking about the money. Well, he gave away millions and millions and millions and millions in property taxes through 30-year industrial revenue bonds. And then we talked about during last year during the election. I haven't heard one single person today, other than him, saying they're in favor of these industrial revenue bonds.
Well, Tim, that leads me to a question.
Fact. Go ahead.
Moving forward, and
one thing he did say too is only a handful of people are raising Cain about the black soot or mold. Only a handful of people, quote.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I got a handful of people. I got a probably list here if you want to see them. But anyway, I've got phone calls of people talk about it. I see people out just talk about it all the time. So,
well, it's pretty.
I don't care if it's just one person. It's important to them, and I'm representing everybody, not just the industry, and not just. I'm representing everybody. That one person's important to me.
What would you like to see with IRBs? Because that was always the, there was that exchange, no property tax abatement, and then you got the barrel tax. Well, how's that going to work going forward?
It's going to be
what kind of inducement will there be anything for fiscal court, or will you take abate or eliminate property tax?
It's going to be. We're not going to eliminate property tax for sure, but I'm not saying we won't work with some industrial revenue bonds. I've said from day one I never do 30-year ones anyway.
Right.
I did a 15-year one when I came in.
Right.
And there may be some working avenues that we can still do some because we do have a lot of growth in this county. Mm-hmm. Our numbers are still going to go up for about 9 to 10 years. So we have the opportunity to work with some industrial revenue bonds if it's the case, but it's going to be a joint venture. Again, he did some that didn't have the pilots in them. Many of them didn't have the pilots in them. Some of them did where the schools were made whole. A few of them had it where the courts were made whole. Mm-hmm. A lot of them had none in them, and the fiscal court was left out completely for 30 years.
Right.
And when they gave one to the new distillery up there on 245, that had 0 warehouses on it. You was not going to get any revenue back. By then. They got a 30-year tax break with no warehouses, which it means you weren't going to get the bourbon tax anyway.
Right.
Now, you don't tell me if that wasn't a political ploy. You can talk about what you want to say. You can say what you want to say here, but and who's going to get the taxes? We're going to get $75 per employee. And how many roads can you build with $75 and all that? And so on and so on. He said the health department didn't affect the health department. Well, we still subsidize the health department.
Sure.
$1.1 million a year
right.
out of the general tax dollars. So when you take that money out of our general fund, it affects everything, every single thing. But we're trying to get that past us. I don't want to bring that part up. I'm trying to stay positive with the distilleries. We've got a working relationship with them. And I met with some already this week. We're going to try to create another fund with all the different companies about a cleaning fund, all the factories and distilleries and businesses and truckers, and try to come up with a fund to help Margie with her $300 a year that she does. We'll maybe do a cost share with her and the black mode and so on. So I've had some positive meetings with them. I think we're going to work with them in a positive way. And, people call me and ask me questions about these IRBs, and it still comes up, and I still don't like it. But the KDA, Kentucky Distillery Association, is the big one we got to watch. And I've got all these distilleries, and everybody will notice, because there's no telling what they're going to try to do again. They're already in Frankfurt now. We already know. We've got contacts up there, and what kind of bill they're working on, who knows. But they represent the distilleries. And my big thing is, if they want to go after, they pay $1,031 per barrel on a 6-year barrel of whiskey. That's what the distilleries pay average on a 6-year-old barrel of whiskey. Right. Total for the 6 years. Nelson County was getting $20 on that same barrel. $20 versus $1,031. And they went after their neighbors, their friends, their firefighters, EMS, and so on. And that's what I brought up to them. Why didn't you go after the feds and the state instead of coming after your neighbors? Now, we've got it. It's done. We're going to deal with it. But if they come back after anymore, it's going to be hell, I'll tell you that. And I don't think they will. Hopefully they won't, because we want to try to work with them and be partners. And
sure,
it's been a good thing for the community. They create a lot of jobs. One thing really disturbs me is I met with several of them before, and my predecessors on the other day said they're going to be moving out. Well, the barrel tax has been in place for many years, and they've been moving in. And they got it on their spreadsheet. When they do a planned spreadsheet, most of them got financiers, investors, right?
Sure.
That number has been included on their spreadsheet.
Sure.
And they've been coming in and in and in and in. So all of a sudden, if this thing don't go away, they're going to leave. Now, you just tell me how that works when you do a spreadsheet. It don't work with me, so. Yeah, so here we are, and again, I don't want to keep bringing it up. I'm getting it behind me. Because when you bring it up to me, then I get all tore up, and then I'm trying to be positive and get Margie over here on my side, and we're going to be partners with them and try to work out some positive things with them. And I think we will. We have. I had a meeting with them again day before yesterday, matter of fact. So that's what we're trying to do, and I think we'll accomplish that. But we'll see how it goes. We'll have our first reading probably. Met with the committee. I'll try to meet with some distilleries next week. I haven't called them yet. I guess they'll hear it here now. But I'll get the mayor and myself and our first proposal to them about the PUD type thing.
Right.
And it's not that hard, really. It's just, it adds some language to it. And,
Right.
And the biggest thing is that the citizens be involved and let them know what's going on in the area.
Right. Well, Tim, we're down to the last 2 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
Anything you want to leave with our listeners that we haven't got touched on?
Well, the budget side of it, I'm gonna make sure everybody's clear. I mean, on the because I had a customer, or not a customer, but a constituent asked me about why did you have to put the 911 fees on the tax bills? And they read whatever, maybe yours or the standard, how it was, but it's been on the tax bills for a long time.
Sure it has.
It's not like we just done it.
Right.
And I've got to send an email out and explain it to him. It was already on the tax bills. We did raise it $1 per month per person.
Right.
Or actually not per person, per
property.
Per property.
Right.
It's not per person. If you got 5 households in there, it's 20 cents a person. So so it's $1 per household per month, and that's all we've increased it. And we've been paying $14, $15 an hour to dispatch employees. And I'm not going to let that happen, because if we don't have a good dispatch center, you cannot provide emergency services. So that's going to take care of that problem for a long time.
So it costs homeowner $12 a month.
$12 a year.
$12 a year.
Yes.
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 Right.
Yeah.
And with you just got your Social Security raise. That's about 8%, didn't you?
Don't ask me.
So you take that little bit, and it only costs you $1. So we're trying to be as fair as we can.
Sure.
And we've got our growth. As long as we got the growth, it helps keep everything else in play. And I don't want to raise, but we do got to keep our fees in line.
Sure.
I don't want to raise taxes. I've always said we'll keep our growth of the tax rate as low as we can. I'm not going to impose any new taxes, but we have to keep our fees in line.
Mm-hmm.
A new garbage truck's $360,000. We got to buy one about every 3 years. A new ambulance is about almost $300,000.
Yeah.
The fire trucks, when these guys out there, they're over $1 million.
All right. But Tim, we are out of time.
You've got to buy this stuff and replace it. But
right.
anyway, thanks for everything, for having me on, and I'll be back sometime.
All right. Thanks, Tim. And that's it for Bradford and Brooks.
WBRT Bardstown, 1320 AM, 97.1 FM, and on 94.9 FM in Lebanon.